Welcome to the Growth and Banter podcast. My name is Blake McCullough, CEO and founder of GMS Media Group, one of Australia's leading creative digital advertising agencies. This podcast is for any business owner or aspiring business owner wanting to learn the strategies and secrets to maximize your potential online. Episode 1, and how better than to kick it off with my business partner and COO to GMS, Simon Train. So Simon, we've had GMS since 2016 now. But I want to talk about how we first met.
Yes.
Let's discuss that. How did we meet, if we can remember?
I think it was back, I would have been 18, 19. Because you were always a year younger.
Yeah.
It was through Swanee.
A
close mutual friend, Alex.
Yeah, that's right.
I was going out with his sister at the time. And there was a couple of years there where we would just cross paths and just coming from Granada. A small world and...
the old Shire, God's country.
Yeah, mate, that's it.
But it's funny because obviously we've been in business now for 7 years now.
Yeah.
But it's not the first time we've worked together.
Oh.
I think obviously we met through a mutual friend. And then I got the job at General Pants through you. You're working at General Pants, and I'm like, hey, that looks sick. Give me a job.
Yeah, that was good fun, wasn't it?
That was fun.
Back then.
Yeah,
I think you came on as a Christmas casual.
Yeah.
At the time, and
they for some reason kept me on.
Kept us all on for some reason. No one knows why. And that was a good couple of years. That was fun. And
it was.
That was the first time that we were together, and then a couple of years later we crossed paths again. Down in Sharkies.
Yeah, I was driving the courtesy bus. That was actually my probably longest job before getting into the corporate world, but driving that bloody Sharkies bus everywhere. It was a good time. On the home games, drinking beers.
Oh, it was the best.
It was good, yeah.
Just looking after the boxes.
Yeah.
It was good fun.
But life's changed. I mean, that was 18, 19, and I remember some of the days at General Pants. We'll be going out all night and going straight from the cross all the way through to dropping you to do a shift at General Pants and the music be pumping.
That was my younger days.
Yeah.
Behind me now, but it was very fun.
Yeah, I think we're both on the tail end of partying, that's for sure. At least we had a crack and no regrets along the way.
Absolutely.
But yeah, look, it's been a funny ride. I think obviously from meeting and then working various jobs before starting. A professional career. Let's discuss your progression from, obviously General Pants, Sharkies, some other bar jobs that we had back then, which is natural that we do at university.
Yeah.
Talk us through, going into the real world, into the corporate world and sort of the experiences you had.
Sure, yeah. So I kind of for a long time didn't really know what I wanted to do. I think like most people in their early 20s going through schooling and university and studies, and you sort of just fall into something or friends of friends. And I always sort of got drawn towards the advertising world, marketing, and I just felt like I understood it. I got it. Funnily enough, I remember watching Grew and Transfer, Will Anderson, the ABC show, and they used to, obviously talk about a lot of the advertising, sort of pull apart and kind of make light of it and look at different advertising campaigns and that sort of thing. And that was one thing that made me kind of think maybe this is an industry or a career that I could go all right in, or enjoy myself in at least. And that was sort of maybe planted the seed for me to sort of explore and go down the world of advertising. And I think it was something that I think resonated a lot when I watched that show, and everything that the experts on the panels when they had them on would pull things apart, and it sort of just all made sense to me. And I thought most people would be able to see through these these different advertising and marketing ways that they would trick people.
Having sound knowledge around a bit of everything. I feel that's what marketing is, right? In advertising, it's like it's not the ad, it's not the campaign. You got to know a little about a lot.
Yeah, it's almost pulling on the heartstrings of people and talking to people in a psychological manner, but then also doing it in however it is delivered. But that was always something that I enjoyed and I liked, and that kind of led me down that path. My first role or my first professional job, full-time job, was in a marketing or media agency, OMD, one of the kind of global agencies at the time, and they're still quite large. That was my first sort of taste at full-time work and in this world. And it was super enjoyable. It was something I really enjoyed. And when that first job for me, I went into a specialized team. Worked on a couple of smaller clients, some alcohol brands like Absolute Vodka, Jameson, Frucor, which was really fun client to work on.
We got to bang on their doors, get them into GMS.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was a really good sort of foot into the door for me. And it was a specialized team that I was in, and it was really, really good. And from there, I stayed in that company, but ended up going into the Macca's team. So I worked on the McDonald's account. That was, I think, the largest or second largest account that the agency had. Big agency as well. It was about 300 people, 350 people there.
And talk us through, like, an account like McDonald's. You know, it's very different to the clients and brands we work with, you know, in that sort of mid-tier space. But going to that top-tier level, like, what's it take to manage a client like McDonald's?
Back then, and this, I'm showing my age now, but when I was working in that at that agency, offline and online were very much split. You know, there was a traditional media, and then the online media. That was, this was probably 2014, 15, maybe 2012.
Yeah, 10 years ago, a decade. Wow.
Yeah, almost 12 years ago, I think, when I first started working there, and managing that account, the requirements for that were pretty large. Like, there was a team of 20 people. In a planning sense, we're doing strategy, we're doing media placement and buying, working with the creative agencies as well. So a full team, a team of probably 20 to 30 people.
Just on the one account.
On that one account, yeah. So that was it. That was a kind of, there's previous in the smaller accounts that I was on, going from that to a juggernaut like Macca's. It was just a different pace. It was really good to see sort of both ends of the spectrum. But yeah, a lot would go into that. A lot would go into managing an account of that size, and it came with different challenges. Yeah, like the budgets were obviously massive, a lot more than we're talking 7-8 figure budgets. Yeah, in a quarter sort of thing, and it was just a lot more to manage. But it was good. I learned a lot there. That was it was something that kind of made me realize I wanted to work on I like the smaller agencies or the smaller businesses where you could be a bit more nimble, a bit more hands-on, rather than sort of just come in and have to follow, a structure. And
well, I think like we've had similar experiences again, both having, got me going into my first job, which was at MCN, which is now Foxtel Media. Yeah. So you were sort of agency side, I was supplier side, I was placing commercial real estate on all Foxtel channels. And you're right, like, doesn't matter no matter what size and what brand, what industry you're in, if you're in a huge company like that, you do feel like a bit of a number. You do learn a lot. You get exposed to how the business operates, get exposed to big brands, you get exposed to quite an oiled machine. But yeah, I think you had that same thinking of what I went through working at that job, and within 6 months knowing this is not for me. Like having to climb that ladder, having to smooth with everybody. It just wasn't something that I've sat well with, and I went straight to a small brand, and that's where I learned a lot of marketing. And I think you sort of had that natural progression as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. We going from there, and it was I valued my time there.
Oh yeah,
loved it there.
absolutely.
I learned a lot, but there was at one point I sort of got to. I think I hit a ceiling there. And I said, okay, what else is there? I love the industry. I love what I'm doing, but I feel like my growth is sort of tipped, or it's at the max.
But I think also, like, so important to highlight how important it is to get those skills to work in, like, when you are younger, and if anyone's listening that is an aspiring business owner, or maybe they've just started out and they're in that sort of ideation phase. So important to go out there and learn the ropes and get some different skill sets and careers, and not just maybe work at one brand, but a few. I was the same. I had no idea what I wanted to do, and we're still sort of playing the guessing game a little bit. Let's face it. That's what marketing is: test and measure. I think like the biggest thing to know is you have to go out there and there's one thing thinking of what you feel like you want to do, and another thing actually putting that to practice and going, oh wow, this is not me at all. But like I had 4 different jobs, excluding the Sharkies and the retail business at General Pants. But you take those elements with you to eventually then start your business. I feel there's probably a minor amount of people that would probably go straight from studies to business, and people do that. I know a lot of people do that in Silicon Valley, but in the sort of normal way. Having those different skill sets is what's enabled us to apply that to GMS. Running our first business and going from zero, no investment, no capital. Going then full time in 2017. I know you're sort of working a bit more remote, and I was working part time in 2016.
That's right.
Out of Cub, which was at a phenomenal facility to sort of bootstrap the business. But going from part time and even when we were building the business, it was about a year and a half before we even jumped ship and went full time. Right. So it's like that point of. Don't check out of a hotel until you got the next room booked. I want to sort of like discuss what allowed us when we did sort of go full time with it in 2017 to go from zero capital all the way through to a 7-figure business in under 3 years and end up winning, the best marketing service in Australia at the Australian Business Champion Awards. And since then, multi awards and changing offices, growing the team, having huge growth. Like, what do you think are the main factors and events that led us there? There's a few.
There's a few, yeah.
It's not just one thing.
No, I would lie if I didn't say. I think we were kind of, there was an element of right time, right place.
Yeah, timing's everything.
Yeah, I think we were fortunate that I think when we entered that market, obviously coming in 2016, 2017, there was, digital marketing wasn't new by any means, but I feel like not many people were, especially in Australia, were able to really make social platform that could work for them and for brands
and monetize that from a paid point of view.
Exactly. Yeah. I think at the time a lot of people were focusing a lot more on growing a brand and a business and doing a lot more of the organic sort of building.
And organic started to die.
Exactly. Yeah, and now we're seeing that now with Instagram's going down that path. And, but yeah, it's I feel like there was an element of that. I think with your background as well, with the job that you were working in before we went full time with
Meltwater
GMS. No, when you're doing the events,
Global One,
Global One. Yeah. So I feel like a lot of your transferable skills that you learnt there, and that sort of paved the way a little bit more for
sure.
And kind of, I guess, validated the idea and validated. Okay, social is a platform. Like you're getting great results for some of the events that you were running there, and those strategies were working really well. And then I think we just started to implement that for other people who are sort of available or other brands or coaches that were there. And I think there was that element of right time, right place. And we sort of really, there was a fertile market there, and we took advantage of it. And
you never know what's going to come back around in circles, right? Yeah. Like never burn a bridge in business ever. Because, and I think that's one thing that we've always tried to maintain is have a good reputation, have good relationships with our clients and our team. And of course you get the odd crazy client and the odd bad team member, but that's natural, that's business, that's life.
It's unavoidable.
Going on into that marketing role that I was at Global One events, where we had numerous speakers across business and property and self-development, I think that definitely allowed us to build a bit of a presence and portfolio in the beginning, dragging, that sort of knowledge and expertise, and then getting that sort of coaching space. That was a big space that we operated in initially. We didn't even focus on e-commerce in the beginning, did we?
Yeah.
It was purely lead generation for service businesses and particularly within the coaching and consulting space. So lots of events and stuff like that. And then I was even doing a lot of speaking events back then when we started, I think, which has sort of elevated the brand quickly too. So I think a mixture of our skill sets, having that similar journey, I think also dragging, some of the IP and sort of clients we're indirectly working with in previous jobs to then directly work with. And I think like a big part of that is also having an environment where you can network. And that's what I'm a big believer in, is like as cheesy as it sounds, your network is your net worth, irrespective of what's in your bank account.
You know how cliche that is, though. It is so true.
So true.
It is, it's 100% true. And if you look at, I think we sort of fast forward from back then to now, like if we look at the network we built and sort of culminated, and it sort of rings true. Like a lot of new business that we generate even to today is from relationships that we've had for 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I think that's something that growing and focusing on network from an early stage was one of those pivotal things for us.
Yeah.
I think right time, right place that was fortunate. But I think at the time as well, we sort of entered this unknown territory, and I think
wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And I think we were naive, but that worked to our advantage. We were young and naive, but we were hungry.
I think if you ask most business owners in a business where they've been in for some time, if you knew what you know now going into it, would you do the same thing?
Yeah.
It'd probably be no, but like the naivety is you have to have it going into something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's so many things that you just don't foresee happening that is good to tackle, and you have to do that the hard way sometimes.
Yeah, because I know at that point there was almost like a tipping point back in 2016. Because I think at the time you were working with a previous business owner.
Yeah,
there was a time when it was, are you going to keep going with this? And I think you may have even had sort of second guess or doubts. Is that
before we went in full time with it? I think the plan was always to go full time with it, just when the right time was. But in terms of being able to support ourselves, I think that was the second guessing. Is this something that we can actually do full time and support ourselves and pay the bills? Yeah. That's always the hardest jump.
When to make that leap?
When to make that leap? Yeah, I think the trajectory to wanting to start my own business was there from pre-uni days, having parents and a family that have that entrepreneurial drive. That's, I think, was sort of in my blood growing up and seeing that. Yeah. They're more in the hospitality background and obviously dabble in that a little bit. And we've got lots of hospitality clients as a result too. So again, sort of cross-pollination. But yeah, I think I always had that vision of and I think we're at a point now of like 7 years, 8 years down the track. What is that next thing? And that's sort of what we're looking at doing next year. And finding bigger office space, looking at other collaborative partners. And I think one thing that we've done really well over the past year is building that strategic partnership network, having a nimble core team and then allowing to leverage other specialists in other areas, because obviously we're very good at paid media buying and driving growth from advertising across omni-channel online, and we could even go as far as traditional. But having those alliances in creative content services, copywriting services, websites, apps, CRM support, back-end email marketing. So it's like we become that holistic approach, and I think that's sort of where we're starting to go down. And I think what next year is looking like for us is sticking to our guns, but having that further high-level advisory where we're able to do it all and bring key partners into the mix and collaborate with those key specialists that we've built up over the time. And I think we've got like 70 to 100 active partners on our list right now on our roster.
And it's growing.
So it's like we can continue to remain nimble, lower overheads, and then still service brands and do everything for them through our alliances, which I think has been built over time through our own network, through our clients. But, being in network groups like Cub's been phenomenal for us. We're working out of there for a full year in 2017, using it as an office space, and using those co-working facilities. So yeah, networking is super key. We've obviously used shared spaces for some time until last year, where we sort of went into our own office, which was again another leap in the journey. Yeah. And that's always scary. We went from 6 staff to 15 staff plus all the contractors we had, probably up to 20 at one point. Yeah. I think it's and I think like I also want to touch on the fact that we were always chasing growth, and I think for business owners, it's natural to have some figure in mind that you're always chasing, and you want to continue to hit that target and continue to grow at that speed. And there's going to come a time when you hit some roadblocks and adversities. And I think the biggest lesson I took out of last year and post-COVID and coming into this year and next year is, it's not always about scale. It's not always about chasing a number. It's about what can you maximize from your current team and efficiency before you start going crazy and spending your money just because there's money sitting there in the bank account. I think a lot of business owners made that mistake. And I heard a stat recently through an article that it was like 1,000 businesses are closing up every day in Australia. And I think that's just a domino effect from, the COVID, relief and then sort of people sort of not realizing that tax is going to kick in again, and then there's inflation and economic downturn. There's distrust. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, so it is a tricky time. So like, how do businesses navigate through that right now? Particularly from a marketing and brand point of view, like what are the best approaches, and how do people save money in the process?
Well, I think we've kind of rode this wave from when we started GMS to today, where I think brands and a lot of businesses would neglect the branding and the awareness and actually focusing on building a brand because it wasn't generating an immediate ROI. Like if you had $100,000 marketing budget, most brands would just go, okay, cool. How much return can that drive for me? If I invest that $100,000 on ads, I want to be able to see 2, 3, 4 times that back. So it's always just thinking about tomorrow's sales or tomorrow, not thinking about 6 months, 12 months, 2, 3, 5 years down the track. And I think so many brands have been neglecting that branding piece and actually focusing on building a community, building a brand, and building longevity in their customer base, or focusing on these less sexy in the sense that they're not immediately driving ROI. So I think the brands that are focusing a little bit more on that, and we've even seen over the last few years with things like the iOS 14.5 and cookies becoming more or becoming redundant, or tracking's becoming a lot more muddied in the waters. Now these brands are starting to freak out because they're not seeing this return on ad spend coming back from their investment. And then now that's starting to dry up. The brands that had been working on focusing or putting a lot more emphasis and focusing on building a brand and building longevity, thinking about building a tribe or a following and then nurturing that following, then they've got this fertile ground of prospects that are just sitting there. And if there's this emphasis, it's a 6-12 month knock-on effect. So the brands I'm noticing that are focusing and putting some sort of like 5-10% of their focus on like building a brand or
tapping into the community.
That's I think that's something that is now starting to sort of come back, and people are seeing the importance of that now. But yeah, I think like us, like we can think about our own brand. Like we've evolved, like the shapes and forms that we've come and gone in, like from the industries we've worked into, the size of the team that we have, different services that we're
diversification.
Like the brand. Like I think if you just sit still and don't try to innovate, update your productize or go down different paths and think about challenging your own sort of status and your own position, then you're just going to get taken over. Like look at Facebook, look at Instagram. Now TikTok's coming along threatening Insta.
I still refuse to use it. From an advertising point, of course, we do, but from an organic point of view, I spend less time on that.
It's just a void. It's just a void you get stuck into. But
there's only so much you can to use and spread your time and energy, and for yourself personally and a brand too.
100%.
Yeah, it's splintered. Marketing is so splintered, and it's getting more splintered. We don't have the luxury of having one app where we can just go on and do it all. It's going to become more complicated. And I think, like you said, when we first started, we just did Facebook ads. That was it. A bit of Instagram ad. Instagram wasn't even monetized when we were doing it because they just bought Instagram, and so it was purely just Facebook ads. And now we're like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Snapchat, and then you got search engines, Google, YouTube, Google Shopping, and then all the way to programmatic, digital out-of-home billboards, and then that's just digital ecosystem, social search and programmatic. Then you look at traditional. And then outside of that, you got branding, PR, the list goes on. There's a lot that people can get confused. And I think that's what a lot of people make the mistake on doing, is they try and do spaghetti at the wall and do everything at once. And one thing that we do really well for our brands, which I'm really proud of, is that, we tackle what is the low hanging fruit, what is the highest priority, and then grow with that brand. And we do so through our knowledge from what we've built as a brand, but also through, again, our strategic partners, being able to loop in people, going, okay, we've got the ad sorted, or we've got web sorted, let's move on to content. Then we've got that sorted, let's move on to brand or PR, whatever it is. Let's fix up your emails. Let's then work on getting some ads. And once we've got the data, let's then diversify over to another platform. So it's about tackling one thing at a time, not trying to get too overwhelmed with it. And when you're growing your business, it's important to manage risk and also to not blow your budget. It's so easy to spend money out there. It's crazy. So you got to let the data do the talking.
100%. And I think it's looking at that sort of your digital tool belt, looking at every single platform that's available. And not going with all of them, like you said. Like, don't just throw the spaghetti at the wall, but have a strategic plan and sort of approach for every single one of those platforms. Are they going to be relevant for you? LinkedIn might not even be a viable marketplace for your brand. TikTok might not be working for you at all. So just because they're there, you don't have to use them. But I think if you are to use them, have a really solid plan of how you're going to be using that platform. How's it adding value? Think about how your customer is actually or using that platform.
Yeah.
And then, then make a plan around that.
Like we just ran a workshop last week. It was yesterday, wasn't it? Just on TikTok and integrating, the how to use that differently to Meta, and I think like we've moved to an influencer marketplace to a creator marketplace, which is an amazing opportunity for brands because we don't have to spend 10 grand on an influencer's post and that just goes on the feed and that's it. But we can get content creators that charge as little as $100 to create a piece of content that you can use that to post, that you can use that to boost. TikTok has a huge amount of engagement right now and cheap engagement, like what Facebook and Instagram were back in the day. But I think, people get it wrong. They go, I'm just going to do one content shoot and then that's just going to go across everything. But it's not how it works. You need to have tailored content for certain platforms, whether that is Meta and TikTok are two completely different ecosystems and they work very differently. Therefore, the content is very different. Sometimes you can get away with getting a great TikTok reel and put that over to Meta Reels because Meta just adopts all the other tools out there like they've done with Snapchat. Yeah. But it's important to be able to spend time on one thing at a time and not try and do a mediocre job of everything because it is so easy to get caught in that trap.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
I think like a big part of what we really pride ourselves on from a team point of view is culture as well. And there is this whole work from home life balance. I want to talk about like what's your view on the balance between that. I think we've sort of struck it quite nicely. I think we're even going into summer and we're going to probably create more flexibility over that summer period. But I think even big corporations are now struggling with 2 years post COVID having to get people back into the office. But there's this stigma and just expectation now from staff to just make their own rules up. It's like well, there's got to be a bit of a give and take there and a meet in the middle. But I feel like it is sort of collaborating a little bit and going back to normal. But what do you feel business owners are doing mostly?
I think we've been in the marketplace for quite a couple of years now since COVID, where it has been a lot more favourable to the employee.
Yeah.
They've been a little bit more, they've had that flexibility, which has been great. But, I think especially for us, a small business, it's so hard to sort of harbour and create that culture and create a collaborative workplace when everyone is remote. And even for bigger businesses, like I can't imagine if you have 50 to 100 staff, how well your team are going to be working together if they're never speaking face to face. And
I think some of the bigger ones are probably faced with the problem of like they have allowed it to be a more remote workforce. And I've heard some companies go full remote, which is fine. I think if you have the right systems and processes in place, go for it. If you're a big enough brand and you can do that in your global footprint, then I feel like that's probably more justified. But small business, even medium-sized businesses, to cultivate the learning, the culture and just the creativity is very hard to do at home. I think it's like the 9 to 5 Monday to Friday is certainly out the window, and I wouldn't want to go back to that. But having like we do 4 days a week in the office, flexibility morning and afternoon, and we'll probably do 3 days a week over summer because we're we're going to be breaking up for a little time. But being able to sort of meet in the middle there is important, but still listen to your staff. There is we don't believe in any hierarchy, do we? And it's having that even playing field, and I think that's what employees do respect. The owners of the business or whatever, the managers being there and leading from the front. And I think that's really important too. You can't just be like, we're going to stay at home, you guys stay in the office. It's got to be one in and all in and leading from the front.
It can't be a do as I say, not as I do.
That's right.
System. It has to. You have to, as a leader and an owner of a business, you need to be there and setting the example for sure.
Yeah.
But I think we work with a lot of clients. We have a lot of client facing, all of the accounts that we work with. I think of it like this. When you have a team and they're none of they're all remote and they're not working collaboratively or they're not working side by side. It's similar to working with a client. Like we're massive believers in, getting as face to face with the client as possible. Like, yes, you can do the job over Zoom or over email or remotely with a client, but how much more value does a client and does the team get from having taking a client out for lunch or doing something face to face, having a meeting in person? Like
that was lost as well. It went so digital, and then we almost forgot. Oh, well, I can actually go and meet this person. Like it's chalk and cheese. Like meeting someone in person as a client point of view, and taking them out to lunch and nurturing that relationship outside of Zoom. It creates that much value.
Yeah, and I think the same way with account managers or our client-facing team having those face-to-face meetings with a client, how much value both parties get out of that. And I think that's being missed as well. And there's that same sort of that same theory would happen with a team. So like if the team are never working, the only time they chat is over Zoom or is over Slack, and they're only ever talking about work. There's so many of these little like human interactions, like even the team going and getting their morning coffee together. Like there's so many of these little things, and that just helps them gel and bond. And I think it just harbors and creates a much more cohesive workplace.
Absolutely.
And then, the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, stuck at your desk, be in the office. I think that's dead.
I
don't want that. No one wants that.
No.
It's the flexibility and allowing staff or people to be able to work from home. If they've got a doctor's appointment or if they've got a dentist appointment,
more flexible.
They can come in at midday. They can leave early. That's totally fine. But I think there is that magic that is being missed with teams fully remote, that that would be the same as going out for a lunch with a client. I think that's where the magic happens, and that's where like the creativity between team members can thrive.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to change direction. I want to talk about AI. AI's got an influence, I think, across all business right now and anyone who's engaging online. What impact do you think it's going to have on, one, digital marketing, and two, businesses using AI to grow their business and create efficiency? And what's the next few years look like for us using the AI and for brands being able to leverage AI?
Yeah, well, before we talk about the future, I think if we look back 3-4 years, like I know the whole AI conversation has sort of exploded in the last 6 months, and that's really, I think ChatGPT that's been sort of the catalyst for it, that's made it go mainstream news. AI has been a huge part, especially in digital marketing. Like if we look 5 years ago at all these ad platforms, Google have had some form of AI.
It's machine learning. They've been using AI this whole time.
We've been using
programmatic.
Exactly, like allowing an algorithm to optimize your ads for you, or giving it some sort of signals to go out and find, building a lookalike audience. Like they're all forms of AI in a sense. So I think it's just going to get more and more sophisticated. Obviously. In the next, I think how businesses at the moment can be best using AI. I think researching and just using it to help you do these mundane tasks or research new ideas. It's just another sort of feather in your cap where most all brands should be implementing it in some way. And
we did a lunch and learn, or we've done plenty recently, but one with our contractor who works behind some of our key accounts, and he showed us how to use ChatGPT to run what was it? It was it was an article, the way you talk to ChatGPT is not just hey, send me some article ideas on this business. It's like, can you please, run a synopsis of this brand using this context, and do it in a way that speaks like this. So it's like talking to it like a human.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think these tools like ChatGPT and other AI tools, they're not like the be all end all thing. They're not straight out of the box. They're not going to replace people. So that's why I think using them. So like a ChatGPT, the example that the lunch and learn we had a couple of weeks ago with one of our staff. There was a lot of back and forth, and he had to sort of train it or teach it a specific tone of voice that he wanted it to then use that tone of voice when it was spitting out pieces of content.
It was from an emotional trigger point of view, wasn't
it?
Writing that copy.
So it was looking at the 12 archetypes in marketing, and it was making it absorb or become one of those archetypes to then respond based on that tone of voice.
It was crazy what it spat out. It was just like, you can't like it just in a second, it just came out and it was on point, but it was because it got a good brief.
Yes.
You know, and that's with anything.
Like a human.
Bad brief, bad work. Good brief, great work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what we're going to see over the next couple of years is there's probably going to be experts who are like staff or a new skill set in expertise in how to use AI. So there'll like be AI specialists that will be able to come into brands and businesses or consult to brands and businesses and come in and use these tools like an expert and, you know, start to implement them on behalf of a business or a brand. So in like that example, like, you know, anyone can just open an account and use ChatGPT. It's a tool. How well you can use the tool is, you know, how skilled you are in, you know, the theory of it. But I think we're going to see a lot more sort of these unique, specialized roles around AI and how people are going to be using AI to help brands.
And it's not about my job's going to get taken over from AI. It's about how do I pivot and leverage AI to improve what I'm offering as a service. So, you know, a good example is a lot of copywriters out there might be freaking out, and the ones that we partner with are smart enough. They've already adopted it, and they're actually offering services in order to create briefs around how to talk to AI, you know, and build a messaging brand guideline, because it's very common that we have a logo and brand guideline for businesses, but what's neglected is the messaging guideline, you know, the tone of voice of that business, and a couple of copywriters are creating, you know, these context briefs for brands where they can actually plug into ChatGPT. So then that operates and uses the tone of voice and the brand guidelines from a messaging point of view for that business. So copywriters, I think, are leveraging it to build more efficiency. And I think that's one thing that, you know, there's only so much one person can write from a copy point of view, and it's a very, you know, highly skilled job. But imagine the amount of output they can have now without having to hire all these teams of copywriters and train them up. So that's one way of looking at it, from like, okay, I don't need a copywriter anymore because I've got AI. It's like, well, no, you need a copywriter who knows AI to train you on it. Just like anyone can place a Facebook ad, but people come to us because we know how to actually place it from a strategic point of view to get results. So I think that way of thinking is very important in what we should and how we should be looking and treating AI in the future.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's another tool, and those tools are as good as the person using them, right?
Yeah, 100%. So, look, we've talked about strategic partnerships, you know, maintaining a nimble team with a big brand presence. You know, I think that's going to be the future of GMS and where we continue to grow and evolve over the next 1 to 3 years. You know, we're going to do a strategy session in the year to sort of get up to speed with what our next 1 to 3 year plan is. I think outside of that, though, you know, in learning all the things we've learned along the way, being a bit naive, and, you know, both of us, you know, jumping into our first business. I know we even tried to dabble in the clothing brand before it, which, you know, we got some samples, and we was like, we've got no idea what we're doing. You know, and I always think that, you know, brand is a scalable business. You know, having a tangible product is something that we'll probably end up looking at outside of what we're doing within the agency, and leveraging the agency to build another product that is more scalable. There's only so far you can scale an agency unless you start getting acquired, or, you know, partnering. And that's one thing that we will start exploring. But I think if you were to, you know, both of us, if we were to start the agency tomorrow, what would we do differently? What would you tackle first?
Oh, so many things. I think probably systems, processes and operations, like just setting that foundation for growth. But you obviously don't know what you don't know. And it's so easy with hindsight to look back and say that. But I think one thing that we did really well, and we still do really well, is the whole time throughout our journey, we were asked if something was possible. We didn't know how to do it. We just said, yep, we'll figure it out. And like we were so confident, just going, yep, we can do that. So I think being able to, that's something that I pride ourselves on, and what we were able to do. And, you know, we just took on anything and just figured out the solution for it later. There's a lot that you can't teach, but I think having really solid foundation for growth would be one thing. So building those systems and just getting really clear on those processes. Another thing would be to know what the end game would be. So when we started, we didn't really, you know, I think the first 12 months, it was a bit more of a lifestyle.
Just fun, wasn't it? First 2 years, we had the best time. We had no responsibility, or a little bit, but not as much as now.
It was awesome. And it was something that we're like, you know, we didn't have to go to an office. We didn't have to turn up to work, and it was something that, you know, we could work
it's just
today.
Freedom.
But yeah, I think maybe going, okay, what does 5 years look like? What does 7 years? What does 10 years look like? What do we want the brand, or what do we want the business to do? What do I want? Like, what's my end game? What's my end goal with this? So if I could go back and wave a wand and give myself, a message to then, it probably would be to, okay, what's the end game? Where do I want to be?
My 3 would be building a great sales process straight away. I think the sales skills, I mean, we were marketers by heart coming into the agency. I think I naturally learnt sales as we went. I didn't really have a full-time sales gig prior to having the business. Yeah. That's one thing that I've sort of, taught myself, and we've learnt through the business, and think that we're really good at it now. And we've built a phenomenal sales process, and it's killing it at the moment. But yeah, I think sales is so important. If you don't know how to bring, without bringing clients in is one point, bringing inquiries in, but being able to convert and take it through a process and being able to sell effectively and acquire new clients. Without that, there's no lifeblood of the business. Yeah. Another one is brand. And I think we've spoken about that already. Like we didn't really focus too much on the brand back in the day because it was just about generating results, and you could get away with slapping together a landing page and neglecting the brand. We work with some clients that didn't even have a website or a brand. We just literally create the Facebook page, get a landing page done through lead pages or ClickFunnels,
got results,
and then we just that would be it. That would be the business. They'll just then get the inquiries and sell on the back end. Yeah. And I think outside of that would be having a really good culture team, and just making sure that you're hiring the right people in the right departments, and sticking to your lane, having a niche, and not trying to be the master of everything. Now we can sort of expand into more services because we've got that name for ourselves as being great media buyers online. But we started out doing Facebook. Now we're omni-channel. So I think having that niche, outside of having a great culture, that would be my sort of my top 3 there.
Yeah, for me. In the business, that's probably one of the biggest challenges with running a business that I just totally underestimated was hiring. Staff. Like it is such an important thing.
Lucky I was in recruitment at before we jumped ship.
That came in handy.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think next year, 2024, what's going to be some of the key things, like from a digital marketing point of view, evolution aside from AI and that? What are we going to be focusing on, and what should brands be looking out for next year in 2024?
Yeah, I think that it seems to be this this demand in the market for really agile but sort of brand agencies that can provide a lot of services and bringing in specialists. So obviously we're looking at going down that path, and I think the sort of having the best of both worlds with the sort of the agility and the agile thinking and being able to sort of make decisions really, really quickly. Because, in the digital marketing world, speed is everything. Trends come and go within a couple of days, within weeks. And, things just evolve so fast. So having a team and an agency that can sort of adapt and change their thinking and think on their toes really, really fast is massive. And then also having one that has the skill set or the arsenal that can, do every service that is required. So everything from, automations to back-end systems to web dev, web design to, placing ads, media buying, to the whole creative side of things as well. But I think I touched on it before, but I think a big thing that brands need to focus on is brand, is building up a brand and focusing on and putting emphasis on that, because it feels like in the last couple of years, especially since COVID, that there's this, and I think in the e-com space, it seems like there's this explosion of new businesses. And I think the barrier to entry for new businesses opening and coming to market has been lowered so low or so far, which is a great thing, because it's sort of anybody and everyone.
But it's allowed all these crappy businesses to come in. And so people can see through that now. I think consumer sophistication has caught up to the point where people online can tell that's someone who's don't have their shit together versus someone who does, or that's a crappy product versus a good product, or that agency's talking through their ass, that one's actually telling the truth, you know? So I think, being authentic, having a great brand to sort of help communicate that and having that emotional connection to your customers and not neglecting them is massive. Sure. And I think like with the whole iOS, privacy first that Apple's taken, that's enabled, that's disabled us from having a really clean tracking system. We've almost gone backwards in a way. We could track things and therefore people would neglect brand. But because of the iOS, I feel like that's been a push towards, okay, we can't now look at things so black and white. No. Therefore, we need to look at things more holistic and focus on a really great brand and look at the business as a whole and not just what's Facebook returning me, what's Google returning me, and if it's not working, then cut it off. It's like, no, you still need to be online, you still need to be present. There's so many, and even creating content and consistent content, I'm sure is such an important thing and it's gonna be more important. It went from just writing text captions on Facebook to then photos to videos to now
Reels.
AI Reels. It's just going to continue to go down that path of being more complicated. But I think the more that a brand can tick off those main areas around having a great website, brand and marketing and content, it's all those touch points. Back in the day, there was probably several or maybe, less than 7 touch points that a customer would take before making a decision. Now it's up to 25, 30 because of the amount of complexity and saturation that's going on. And I've heard a crazy stat, and I don't know how true it is, I still don't believe it, that we get exposed to 10,000 different types of commercials or advertisements a day.
Yeah.
Maybe that's more of an American stat than here, but it's still somewhat outrageous that we have to swim through all this clutter. Yeah. Which is why you need to be more present and why you need to be more consistent with your brand.
It's almost like you look at those movies like Back to the Future and those futuristic movies when they
so true.
There's just ads
like
floating,
Times Square,
hologram ads running. We're getting them down to that. We're going towards that society. And
absolutely,
it is so true. Think about how much people are consuming on their phones right now, and like how many brands,
it's a dopamine hit, isn't it? It's so addictive.
It's just So that stat wouldn't surprise me if that was close to the number.
Yeah, we're heading to scary times. Now, I know, again, brands neglect a lot, and then a really important thing that we do and what agencies do for customers is that we work proactively. We're working the next 3 months, 6 months with our brands and not just doing day-to-day. Let's have a look at the ad account. What are the strategies that brands need to be implementing for the upcoming holiday season? Things like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, New Year, all going all the way through to Australia Day and Easter. There's so many different moments that brands need to take the opportunity and capture, customers looking for offers and looking to spend money. What are some of the strategies that we're looking to implement as an agency to our customers, and what a brand should be looking at?
Yeah, so I think definitely this time of year, so coming into the back end Q4, it is, especially for e-com, it is a crazy period. You've got Singles Day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then that pretty much
naturally CPMs are rising. The cost of advertising becomes more expensive as well.
Yeah, so a few ways to combat that and just be prepared for that. I think the brands that are focusing and planning this stuff, months out, so even as early as August, September, even maybe October at the latest, starting to actually think about this holiday period and sort of priming and prepping their audiences for this moment. And because like what we're just saying, there's so many different brands out there, the saturation in every single vertical and every single sort of industry is just, it's just rising. So the brands that are, they're doing a lot of priming campaigns and just building up a bit of an awareness and focusing on awareness and brand at this time. Now, they're going to be the ones who will win, come those big sales periods. They've already done a bit of the legwork now. And the lead up to that, they've built up an audience, they've warmed up an audience, they've primed them for when those consumers are, they're ready.
Building the suspense, teasing, giving samples out,
Yeah, rather than the brands that would just be like, okay, well, we last year or the last 5 years, we've made very little in October because, people aren't spending, they're waiting for Black Friday. That was a very American thing 5 years ago, Black Friday. It was always big here, but each year, in the last 5-6 years, it's grown exponentially in the Australian market. And the consumers are almost expecting and waiting for Black Friday. So there is this, there is a bit of a lull in this period now in October. But yeah, brands who neglect this time are the ones who are going. They're not going to, they're not going to make as much of a splash back in Q4 or around those big sales periods. So the brands that are consistently staying relevant and just, being top of mind and popping up in people's feeds, they're the ones who are going to really, they're the ones that people are going to remember and think of.
And I think also it comes back to that scarcity. I think some of the common threads and there's common threads with some of the brands we work with that have been really hyper successful, and it doesn't just come down to us. We're a byproduct of that. Advertising is often one of the pieces in the whole puzzle. But some of the brands we work with, like Culture Kings, G'd Up Clothing, even our good friends at Who Was Elijah Perfume, Uncle Rico. You know, it's like, I think the common threads there is they've got scarcity in their product, so that creates urgency to buy that product. Yeah. They also tap into their community really well, and they know their niche, and they're able to have, you know, faces of the brand that it sort of can tap in and sort of educate and you know, not just run an ad and build a brand, but the partnerships they're doing outside of that, aligning themselves with other partners that will then elevate their brand. You know, I think that's the common thread. It's like looking at all the successful brands we work with over the years, that is it. It's like partnerships, tapping into their customers' shoes, knowing their customers, you know, caring about them as well. And then when it comes to these holiday seasons and seasonal offers, it's about giving back to them. You know, and sort of and highlighting their customers, and, you know, doing these cool things and giving samples out on the street. It's like going that one step and above.
Yeah, and not just focusing purely on paid ads.
No.
Paid ads is a huge part of it, no doubt about it, but it's all the other things that they do outside of that. And I think those brands that you mentioned,
the paid ads won't work unless they're doing that.
Exactly.
You know, it's like we're only so good as what the brand is. You know, which is why we have to have all these other strategic partners. Like there's a gap there. We need to plug that and plug that and plug that. But the ones that we're able to work seamlessly with are the ones that are actually not just palming it off to an agency and go, they're going to solve all my problems.
They should be looking, or brands should be looking at agencies as an extension of their team. Yeah, being, you know, working collaboratively with them rather than, you know, do it all. You're my marketers, go for it. It's all those brands, they do a phenomenal job at, you know, speaking to their audience, like being the face of their brand, and just constantly and consistently like putting out and churning out content that is relating to it. And it goes back to that point, like the brands that are doing that in, you know, these lull periods and you know, putting a bit of money into awareness and branding, building up and just staying top of mind with their customer. Then when these sales periods come around, they're the ones that they're gonna buy from you. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, and they're already planning that now. You know, it's like same as the New Year's. A lot of people start kicking into gear, particularly from a service-based point of view. I know like our coaching consulting clients would always run news resolution campaigns, and particularly when it comes to like personal development coaches, business coaches, that's the time you want to start planning. But they're doing it now. They're not doing it in January. People don't really start coming back and kicking into gear in Australia until end of February. It's like you sort of sit there, you're like, what is everyone doing? They're still on holidays. But you got to start doing the legwork. You know, the proactiveness is so key, and having a schedule and, you know, leveraging agencies and partners so then you're not trying to do it all, because you're just going to be chasing your tail.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think a few other things at this time of year, you know, all these sales periods, like seasonal periods with Christmas and Q4, like the amount of content that's required from brands now is massive.
It's crazy.
Like you need like, and if you think about every single brand online right now they'll throw all their budget at, you know, this weekend over Black Friday, Cyber Monday as an example, but you know, the brands that have, you know, enough content that and constantly rotating and, you know, refreshing what users are seeing, they're going to have a much more profound impact. And it's just sort of standing out in that sea of sameness. You know, if you the same ads running over and over for 3, 4, 5 months, it's just going to become stagnant.
I think also with these offers, like there's a finite amount of time that you can run them until you can't. Like Black Friday, Cyber Monday will run from typically, you know, maybe the day before Friday through to potentially Tuesday. So it's about leading up, like you said, having a lead-in campaign, about teasing what that offer is going to be, you know, running that offer over that weekend period, or, you know, maybe extending that a little bit more. But then also when you are creating the content to promote it, tailoring it to different platforms, you know, tailoring the content to Meta, you know, getting some content creators on TikTok to be able to promote that. And then also not only that, but splitting it into different dimensions. I think people neglect the fact that we're just going to shoot a video and just make it landscape and that will go over all the different placements. There's over, I don't know, 15 to 20 different placements on Meta as an ecosystem. So having newsfeed 1-to-1 dimension, having story dimensions 9 to 16, you know, getting reels done, having different content for TikTok, having different content obviously for YouTube, you know, and going all the way through if you're running programmatic campaigns, again, display advertising, it's a whole nother different type of creative. So it's about setting it up and having the time to be able to treat different placements and different platforms properly to get the message out there properly too.
Yeah, and then add to the complexity of it, like what stage of that funnel are you doing that on social?
Yeah, that's right.
Across, the awareness.
Is it awareness? Is it conversion?
It's not just a one size fits all approach. Will just not work.
Wish it was. It would make our life easier, but also that's why we're in business, right?
Yeah, that's it.
People need us.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well said. Look, you've since we've started the business, where you've had a lot of life changes. Let's talk about family. You've got 2 young boys now.
2 little boys.
Yes.
You're
running the back end of the business, and managing the team, and how do you juggle it all?
Mate, I think that's always been the biggest challenge for me, even before having a family, was like juggling, my social life, my health, my business, my wife, or my partner, now my wife. But yeah, now I've thrown kids into the mix just because I don't do anything by halves. And it's just, it's, I don't know. I somehow find a way.
I'm yet to explore it, so I'm looking for an answer.
Yeah, it's, I think naivety is what goes into doing business, and it's found myself in the same position.
I think like, and we've been working with an advisor for a year now, David the legend, and where I think one thing that he explained really well, and I think applicable for anybody, irrespective of what you're balancing in life, is a thing called having a SWAT team. So, in business, you have all this support function to run a business, but often you neglect that from a personal point of view. So, having someone who you go to that cuts your hair, that goes and, you might have a physio, you might have a chiro, you might have the same dentist, you might have the same hairdresser, a mental health coach, a personal trainer, a golf coach, someone that teaches surfing, whatever it is. Like having that SWAT team to be able to leverage and tap into that support network. So then, when life does get tough, and it is tough, we all struggle. Mental health is a huge thing right now. We're doing a lunch and learn on, how to give back from a community point of view next Thursday with a good friend of ours. And I think, and then also doing the CEO to Dare Cure Ice Bath Challenge next Friday. But I think like having a support network for yourself and actually documenting that and writing it down. So then when times do get tough, you go, actually, I do have people I can lean into. It's not just myself. It's not just myself and my friends and family. It's also these professionals that can help me in all areas of life. And I think that was a beautiful way to put it, having a personal SWAT team.
Yeah, it's just a simple way to think about it, right? And I think like, especially business owners, like you'll do all of that for your business. And that's only one aspect of your life. You got your health, you've got your social life, you've got your family. So looking at doing that for every aspect of your life is only going to help. And
it's like getting a trainer, getting your health goals, getting your six pack and going, job's done. I'm just going to go out and get pissed every weekend and eat burgers. It's like, no, the consistency of it's really important as well. Yeah. And I think people neglect the fact that like, you train every day, but what are you doing to train your brain? What are you doing to maintain your mental health? What are you doing to go out and do co-curricular activities? So you're not just going from work to gym to TV. It's like, having that sort of, and that's something I've always struggled with as well, is like consistency and building that sustainable life. I think I'm slowly getting there, like, 34 now, getting on the tail end of my partying, it's like you got to start thinking of your health. Health is the most important thing. And like when we're running a business and we've got, 40 to 50 clients and a team to manage all these partners. And, sometimes if I'm not in the office, I spend one day and it's like 200 emails there. It's like, you got to stay consistent. And it's those daily habits that then reap the long-term rewards. And you can't do that unless you've got a support network around you.
Yeah, you can't do it on your own.
No.
Like you need support there. I think people who do go into any aspect of life, but with business, they go into it just thinking, they know it all. They can do it all. They don't need anyone's help. It'll never work out.
No, it's never good.
You need that support, and I think it's important to know when you do, and not be, don't feel ashamed if you need to ask for help.
Yeah.
If it's with your mental health, if it's with your physical health, if it's with getting help with your business. Like so many people are. Look at all the business coaches out there, and everyone, most business owners should, if they don't, but most do have a coach or a business coach. Like,
absolutely.
And then, that same logic applies to every aspect. And
we've had a business coach for now, we've changed business coaches, but we've had someone there for a good 3 years now. We got the business to a point where we're like, okay, we need to tap into some help. Like there's only so far we can go. Let's tap into some coaching and get some advisory support from people that have already done it.
Exactly.
And I think that's something we neglect as well. You read a book, you're reading someone's experience over life. It's like you got to self-educate. You got to tap into professionals.
Yeah, and we'd always, throughout the years had those little goals that we set ourselves, And we could have easily, once we got to, that first milestone, been like, great, we've done it. And then I think being able to go, okay, what's the next step? And then been like, okay, we've hit our ceiling, or we've hit our ceiling with our own knowledge and what we know. And then going, okay, cool, let's engage with some coaches, or let's engage with, a sales coach who can help us with our sales process, or a business coach for like full direction of the business or whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, I got you back, brother.
Yeah. I know you do.
Bit of fun. What would you say to your younger self in high school?
Man.
If you could turn back the clock, what would you say to yourself?
I don't know. Probably just, have more fun. Probably.
You don't think we had enough fun?
I probably had too much fun, to be honest. No, I think, don't take stuff too seriously.
Yeah.
Like, especially, like later, like, as I'm getting older, like, there's so many, the daily sort of angst and the daily struggles that in some cases debilitate me. I'm like, well, end of the day, that's like just it's all the small stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a toughie, isn't it?
Good question, but probably just back myself more.
Back yourself. Yeah.
I think that's
a good one.
Just back yourself.
Confidence is key.
Yeah. Just have that confidence in yourself and know that you can do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like something being in business. Like I said before, like we would always just say yes to a client, or yes that we can do this. And even if we didn't know what it was, we would figure it out and probably spend 3 nights up, like just stressing out about taking on a job that we don't know how to do. But then we'd figure out how to do it, and everything turned out to be okay.
It works out if you've got the good intentions. The universe has your back.
Yeah, exactly. And don't sweat the small stuff. Like there's been sleepless nights with both of us. That
agencies are hard, man, and business is hard right now. So you can't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, and look back and just go, that was it was nothing to worry about. But
I think being resilient too, right? Like I think we're both pretty good at just getting on with it. If something bad happens, or we go through a tough time, or whatever it is between the business and personal life, it's being able to like, how do you deal with yourself and be resilient in those moments that matter most. It's not about, I think the character's not about what's shown when you're at the top and when you're having the best time of your life, because anyone can look happy. It's like, how do you react and how do you pick yourself back up when life hits you in the face, you know, and how do you be resilient and, tapping into that SWAT team, like I mentioned, to get you back on top. And, life is fluctuating. There's no such thing as happiness without sadness. You got to go with the ebbs and flows.
Yeah. You got to go through hell to get to heaven.
That's it, mate. Yeah, absolutely. So on the flip side, where do you reckon you'll be in 10 years?
Oh, mate.
Where do you see yourself?
10 years. I actually found a book a couple of years ago, and I had done a 10-year plan.
Yeah, wow.
And I think probably 10 years prior to that. And there was a few things in there. I think it was when I was maybe 17 or 18. And there was, I think one of them was own a business, start or own my own business. So I did that one. And there are a few others. I was like, own multiple properties. I like own a place in London, own a place in like New York or something like that. And there's all these other things.
You're a property developer?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, 10 years time. Man, I'd like to see myself on like a remote property near the beach somewhere.
Yeah.
Semi-retired. Well, still working.
Have a bit of a holiday home or something. Yeah. Like that.
Still, giving back, if not running a business still, but probably giving back to people in my shoes. And
I mean, we're still going to be young, let's face it. 40 is the new 30.
Years, yeah. So, definitely doing something. I'd love to do something in like conservation, like environmental conservation or wildlife conservation. But I think I'll always be in some form in this marketing space because I just love it.
Yeah. I mean, marketing's business, right? I think the amount of transferable skills we've learned to be able to go and build another business, and we're going as far as partnering with some of our clients to go in with them. Like I think we're at that level now where we've got the confidence to be able to go, let's leverage the agency to start other brands. So I feel that's going to be the natural progression for me in the next 10 years is leveraging what we've learned to go and build other brands that we are very passionate about, and aligning ourselves with potential charity partners like what you said, the conservations, that's something that we've been meaning to do for a while that we should definitely tackle. So, let's see. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Now, I think I want to go back on the family. What do you feel is like being the biggest transition from, winding back the clock from how we met to having agency life to having 2 kids? Like, what's been the hardest part and challenge from that transition that you've had? Because I see a lot of my friends right now, you know, getting married, having kids. I'm sort of, you know, I don't have kids yet, so I can't really empathize. I've got 2 nieces, and I'm seeing you sort of go through it. But sometimes I forget you've even got kids because we're sort of sitting next to each other at a desk. It's like, what's been the biggest transition, and what's some of the things you have to sacrifice in life to balance it all?
Sleep. Sacrifice a lot of your sleep.
Sleep, yeah.
Yeah, I think just balance, just finding that balance. My partner, my wife Paige, she's a superstar. Like, she's been so good with, you know, with the boys and with me, and she's always been super supportive of everything that I've done in business and in general. And she's just been, you know, a rock. She's been super supportive and she's solid. But yeah, I think how it's changed. It sounds super sort of cliche and kind of wanky, but like, they become my why. Like, the
why,
the boys are my why. And like, I've got a Polaroid of me, like a photo of me and my oldest boy Artie in the sun visor in my car. And like, sometimes when I'm just driving home and I pull it over, and I do see that, and I just look at that, and I'm like, okay, you know, it's been a shit day, or it's been a tough day, or I'm tired, but then that it's sort of like, that's my why. But it's it's a challenge, but yeah, it's fun, and I hope, you know, what we're doing now is going to pay off in the long run for me to be able to then, you know, spend more time with them in the future, or give them a future that I didn't have, give them an upbringing, you know, like provide for them the way that, you know, that I you know would have wanted for me, and it's been fun. It's been a challenge, but yeah, I think, it's just been one thing to the next, and it sort of just keeps me going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's business or whether it's them, but it's always there's
having
always
the why.
There's never something new, but there are sacrifices and you know, challenges that come with it, but it's like anything in life. And I think I'm not the first person to have kids.
No.
So and I won't be the last, right? And everyone goes through it, and I mean, man, if I can do it, and I think most people can.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Well, I think that's time. We'll leave it there, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting. Mate, look forward to the next 10 years, and let's go to the moon.
Yeah, man.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers, brother.